$1. That's all it took to buy a forgotten horse no one wanted. But what happened after? Keep watching. And don't forget to subscribe and comment below with your thoughts on this heartwarming journey of second chances. It was a quiet morning at the county auction. The crowd mumbled, half paying attention as another tired-looking horse was led into the ring. He was thin, dusty, limping on his right leg, ribs visible under a patchy coat. Some people laughed. Others turned away. Even the auctioneer hesitated before speaking into the mic. All right, folks. Next up, number 61. Gelding, 6 years old. No papers. Starting bid, $1. A ripple of chuckles spread through the audience. No hands went up. Then, from the back, an older man in a worn-out hat and muddy boots raised his hand. $1, he said, voice calm. The auctioneer blinked. Do I hear two? Silence. Going once, going twice. The gavel hit the table. Sold to the gentleman in the back. People snickered as he walked toward the gate. One muttered, should have paid him to take it. Another called out, that horse is more glue than gallop. The man didn't respond. He simply nodded to the wrangler, who handed him the lead rope. The horse didn't resist, just stood there, like it had already accepted every bad thing life had thrown its way. They made their way slowly to a rusty trailer parked far from action. Each step clicked softly on the gravel, the limp more noticeable now. The man moved without rush, matching the horse's broken rhythm. When they reached the trailer, he finally spoke. Name's Samson, he said, patting the horse gently. Don't know yours yet, but we'll get there. He opened the trailer gate. The horse stepped in after a moment's hesitation. The drive home was long. Golden fields rolled past, dotted with collapsed fences and weather-worn barns. His land wasn't much anymore, just a few acres, most of it overgrown. The barns were boarded up. Only one stable still stood, leaning slightly like someone favoring a sore hip. He parked beside it, lowered the ramp, and whistled softly. The horse stepped out, head low. Inside the stall, clean straw waited. A bucket of water sat nearby. No rush, he murmured. You got time now. That night, he sat on the porch with coffee, watching stars blink above the open plains. He could hear the horse shifting inside, letting out slow breaths, like it was too tired even to dream. He hadn't come here to buy anything, just to see what others threw away, maybe out of habit. But when he saw that horse, something changed. It reminded him of Cypress, a wild Mustang he'd trained for years, a horse that had become his closest friend. They used to ride across the fields together in silence, communicating through pressure and presence. But Cypress died 5 years ago, not long after his son left, without a word, without a trace. Since then, the stables had been empty, and so had he. But this horse, this one deserved better than laughter and pity. Morning came with wind and distant hawks. He rose before sunrise, grabbed a bucket of oats, and walked to the stall. The horse looked at him warily, but didn't flinch. I'm going to call you Dusty, he said, 'cause that's what you were when I found you. Dusty sniffed the oats, then took a cautious bite. Over the next few days, the man kept his distance. He cleaned the stall, brought fresh hay, let Dusty watch him move around the yard. Slowly, Dusty began lifting his head more, walking with more weight on his injured leg. When the brush came out, the horse didn't shy away, just stood still, eyes tracking every motion. The man talked in low tones about the weather, the rust on his truck, the price of feed. Then, one evening, he talked about his son. His name was Luke, he said, brushing Dusty's mane. Liked horses more than people. Took off one night after we fought. Never came back. Not a word. Not a letter. Dusty flicked an ear. Every time I came to an auction, part of me thought maybe I'd see him there with some horse he saved. But it's always just ghosts. The wind stirred dry grass outside. He paused, hand resting on the horse's neck. You're the first one I brought home since. That night, for the first time in years, the stable door stayed cracked open. Days passed. Weeks. Dusty's limp eased. Muscle returned beneath his coat. The man didn't rush. He watched for signs. Waited for permission. Eventually, he brought Dusty to the round pen. No saddle, no bridle, just a halter and patience. Dusty walked in circles, ears flicking, body tense, but not rebellious. And when he finally turned toward the man, head lowered, the man nodded. "That's it," he whispered. "That's the start." Behind them, the sun dipped low, stretching their shadows across the dust. Something stirred in his chest, something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. And hope, like horses, always starts with trust. By the second week, the saddle came out. Dusty stiffened, but didn't bolt. The bit followed. He resisted only slightly, more from uncertainty than defiance. That afternoon, the man climbed into the saddle for the first time. His knees creaked. His back groaned. Dusty stood still, muscles tight. "We're all right," the man whispered. "Just you and me." They circled slowly, no faster than a walk. Dusty responded hesitantly, but obeyed. Each step was a conversation between pain and healing. By the end of the ride, the man dismounted carefully and rubbed the horse's face. Dusty leaned slightly into the touch. Later that evening, as the sky turned red and purple, the man sat on the porch sipping coffee. The world had become a rhythm again. Mornings in the saddle, afternoons fixing fences, evenings with Dusty nearby. There was still silence, but it no longer felt empty. Then, the sound of tires on gravel. A newer truck pulled into the drive. Out stepped a man in his 40s. Taller, leaner, familiar eyes. The man on the porch froze. Luke stopped mid-step. "Hey, Dad." 12 years. 12 years of unanswered letters. Missed birthdays. Holidays pass alone. The man's mouth worked, but no words came. Luke scratched the back of his neck. "I heard from someone you bought a half-dead horse," he said. "I didn't think you'd ever come back." The man said, "I didn't think I would either." They stood in silence, years pressing between them like invisible walls. Finally, the man gestured toward the porch. "You hungry?" Luke nodded. Inside, over reheated stew and old bread, words came slowly. Luke spoke of places he'd been. Ranches out west. Work with colts. Living out of trucks. He didn't apologize. Not exactly. But something in his tone asked for forgiveness without demanding it. The man listened, nodded occasionally. When Luke mentioned Cyprus, the man looked away. "He died the year after you left," he said. "Wandered into the north pasture one night. Never came back." "I figured," Luke murmured. He was always half wild. After dinner, the man brought Luke out to the stable. Dusty stood in his stall, ears twitching. "He looked worse when I got him," the man said. "Had nothing left in him but air and hope." Luke stepped closer, studying the horse with the gaze of someone who knew a wounded spirit when he saw one. "He's got more fight than I thought," Luke said. "That limp won't stop him forever. His eyes are still sharp." "I wasn't looking for another," the man said. "Didn't think I could care again." Luke didn't reply right away. He reached out, let Dusty sniff his hand, then ran his fingers down the horse's neck. "You cared anyway." For the next week, father and son fell into a rhythm. Luke fixed pipes, cleaned sheds, rode Dusty once, asking permission first. Dusty responded with grace and a little defiance. It was clear the horse had learned more than commands. He had learned to trust. One morning, while tightening a strap, Luke asked, "What are you going to do with him?" The man shrugged. "Keep him, ride him, let him be what he wants." Luke nodded. That evening, the man found a flyer on the bench. Spring County Horse Show. 3 weeks away. On the back, in Luke's handwriting, "I'll ride him if you let me, or stand beside you if you change your mind." He held it a long time. The idea made his chest ache, not from fear, but from how much he wanted it. That night, he lay awake, listening to Dusty in the stall, thinking of the day Luke left and the day he came back. The next morning, Luke tossed hay into the trough. "If you think he's ready," the man said, "we'll go." Luke turned, squinting against the sun. "He's ready." They looked toward the stable. Dusty stood in the doorway, mane blowing the wind. 3 weeks to prepare. 3 weeks to prove redemption isn't a prize won in one act, but in the daily choosing to stay to try to heal. And the choosing had already begun. At the fairgrounds, the air buzzed with life. Laughter, hooves on dirt, fiddle music drifting between barns. The man stood near the ring, gripping the rail, trying to look calm. His eyes betrayed the truth. They followed Dusty like a prayer made flesh. Dusty was no longer the broken creature from the auction. His coat shimmered bronze in the light, muscles defined, stride strong. The faint limp was barely noticeable now. As Luke guided him into the warm-up circle, the crowd turned to watch. This wasn't just a horse being led in. It was a story unfolding. Luke wore a plain shirt, dusty jeans, and a calm confidence the man hadn't seen since he was a teenager. They moved as one, horse and rider bonded not by training alone, but by something deeper, mutual recovery, mutual forgiveness. The event was a trail course, gates to open, poles to step over, a small bridge to cross. Control, trust, precision. Luke guided Dusty forward. First gate came easy. Dusty waited. Luke unlatched it. Bridge came next. Dusty hesitated, sniffed, ears flicked. Luke didn't rush. He loosened the reins, gave a gentle nudge, whispered something low and private. Dusty stepped forward. One hoof, then another. Slowly, he crossed. Applause rose from the bleachers. They finished flawlessly. No flash, no theatrics, just precision and poise. Scores were read. Dusty placed second. Luke didn't care. Neither did the man. They weren't chasing ribbons. They'd already won something more lasting. Afterward, Luke led Dusty back to the trailer. The man met them halfway, one hand on the halter, the other brushing Dusty's neck. "You made him whole," Luke said quietly. "No," the man replied. "He made us whole." That night, the farm slept under cool air and crickets. The man sat on the porch, coffee in hand. Luke joined him, lowering into the chair with the tired grace of someone who had earned every ache. They didn't speak for a while. Dusty grazed quietly under the moonlight. "I used to think Cypress was the only horse I bond with," Luke finally said. "Once he died, I didn't have it in me to start over." The man nodded. "Same with me. But now I see," Luke continued, "sometimes you don't find the right horse. Sometimes they find you." The man looked at him. Same goes for people. A long silence stretched between them, but it was comfortable, like an old coat finally fitting right again. In the morning, Luke rode again, no judges, no spectators. Just him and Dusty. The man followed on foot, watching them disappear beyond the trees. The way a man watches a future he didn't think he'd live to see. Weeks later, a letter arrived. Not long, just a few lines in Luke's handwriting. Dusty crossed the river like he owned it. First day, he outworked every other mount. You were right. He wasn't broken, just waiting for the right hand. I think maybe I was too. Tell the fence it'll get mended when I get back. Luke. The man read it 3 times, smiled, looked out the window toward the empty corral. The wind rustled tall grass, and for a moment, he almost heard hoofbeats in it. Moral lesson. Sometimes the most broken things hold the strongest hearts. All they need is someone who believes in them enough to begin again.